As we get to the Christmas season, the same tired myths about the origins of Christ's birth keep rearing their ugly heads. One myth that makes me tear my hair out is the idea that Christ's birth was based upon the birth of Horus on December 25th. Find out why I'm going bald on this episode of Ancient Egypt and the Bible. A lot of allegations go around accusing Christianity of stealing details about the life and traditions of Jesus Christ from pagan myth. This is an accusation that is often posited by radical fundamentalists, Jehovah's Witnesses, members of the conscious community, and unfortunately, the less bright members of the mythicist and skeptical community who are too dull to look up the facts. Today, we are going to look at the myth that Horus was born on December 25th, and that Christianity took the date of the birth of Jesus Christ from the Horus myth. Okay, now the version of the myth that I'm going to address here comes from a newspaper article by Dwayne Johnson. No, not that Dwayne Johnson. That Dwayne Johnson. Johnson wrote an article for the Valdosta Daily Times entitled, "Egyptians, Pagans Are the Reason for the Season." And I quote from the article, quote, "Ancient Egyptians celebrated the birth of Horus on December 25th. He was the, quote, son of God, born of the virgin Isis. To celebrate, Egyptians gave gifts, feasted, and placed palm branches in their homes," end quote. If you want to see the original article, I've left a link in the description. Okay, suffice it to say, this quote is so wrong, it's hard to know where to begin. And there is an unwritten assumption here that the Egyptian calendar is the same as our own. But that's not quite the case. First, the Egyptian calendar has 12 calendar months of 30 days, plus 5 additional festival days at the end of the calendar. The Egyptian calendar, in theory but not practice, starts with the first day of the Nile's inundation, which is agreed to be September 11th. But in ancient times, the seasons rotated through the calendar because the calendar was not intercalated. It didn't have that quarter day at the end of the 365 days, so the calendar actually rotated, the seasons rotated through the calendar year. As such, the Egyptian calendar doesn't begin on January 1st like our calendar does, but in the middle of the year around the month of September, when it was finally intercalated during the period of the Ptolemies. The second thing is that the epagomenal days, which are the 5 festival days at the end of the year, they represent the birth of 5 gods: Osiris, Horus, Seth, Isis, and Nephthys. Horus was born on the 2nd epagomenal day. So if we take Johnson's assumption that the Egyptian calendar is like our calendar, that means Horus was born on December 28th, not the 25th. So even if we grant Johnson's assumption, it doesn't get the day correct. And when we actually peg the calendar to where it should lie, the equivalent of December 25th would be on the 29th day of the 4th month of Shemu, which is summer. And that day actually falls on September 4th of our calendar. Third, the particular Horus who was born on the 2nd epagomenal day is not even the same Horus that was born to Isis, which is also called Horus the Avenger. All the gods born on the 5 festival days were the sons of Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky god. Horus, son of Geb and Nut, is better known as Horus the Elder. He is the god of kingship, and his cult is older than the cult of Horus, son of Isis. The two Horuses, Horus the Elder and Horus the Avenger, are in no way related and don't even share the same parents. Moreover, Isis was not a virgin when she conceived Horus the Avenger. In order to conceive a son from her dead husband Osiris, she had to retrieve Osiris's phallus that had been eaten by the Oxyrhynchus fish. Without the phallus, she was not able to conceive that son, and it's a critical portion of the myth. Now, once Isis had retrieved that phallus, she had it sewn onto the corpse of Osiris, and then she copulated with the dead body. Of course, the idea that Isis was a virgin gets its source from mistakenly reading of funerary texts that confuse the bawbird with Isis, or that infer euphemistic drawings of Isis floating over Osiris, and that this was a contactless conception. But that idea would have been abhorrent to the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians considered Horus the Avenger the real, physical, biological son of Osiris, which is why he could cement his claim to the throne of Egypt. Without biological conception, Horus had no claim to the throne. It couldn't be a spiritual conception, it had to be a physical conception. That's why Isis needed the phallus of Osiris. Furthermore, almost all the gods of Egypt were born through daddy and mommy gods coming together and having some intimate mommy and daddy time. For almost every cult of Egypt, any god who is being worshipped and is male is most likely the son of a god. So in an Egyptian context, being the son of a god is nothing special or unique within the Egyptian pantheon. It was just the procreative process of making gods. So Horus being the son of a god is not unique. It's commonplace in Egyptian religion. Also, while the Egyptians celebrated the epagomenal days with feasting and public drunkenness, there is no evidence that they gave gifts to each other. This is superimposing later practice upon the feasts and rituals of the ancient Egyptians. In other words, it's an anachronistic reading of the Egyptian festivals. And finally, there is not a shred of evidence that the birth of Jesus had anything to do with the birth of Horus. It's nothing but empty conjecture. The date of December 25th was not based upon the birth of Horus, but upon the Feast of Annunciation, March 25th, which just happens to be 9 months earlier than Christmas. In conclusion, practically everything that this myth says about the birth of Horus is wrong. Horus was not born on the Egyptian calendar equivalent to December 25th. The Horus mentioned by the epagomenal day is not the same Horus as the son of Isis. Isis was not a virgin, she copulated with a corpse. And the Christian holy day of Christmas has nothing to do with Egyptian myth. So with all that said, we want to thank you for taking the time watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something, and we wish you a very Merry Christmas from all of us at Ancient Egypt and the Bible.